Science Universe! Welcome to Functional Fun. I'm your host, SpaceC, and today we will talk about fun in VR with Lena Grigorian, skillful Unity developer who is proficient in VR. Lena, say hi to our listeners!
Hello, listeners.
Okay, I'd like to start with saying a couple of words about the Apple Vision Pro. What do you think about it?
Well, I didn't get to try it. Um, I can say that it is expensive. I can say that I've been hearing for years about it to come out, and finally it's here. And it's so expensive, like Apple like to do. um,
Yeah.
I know it has eye tracking, and I guess their graphics are amazing. And um, and it's an XR, MR headset. It's for augmented reality and for virtual reality, and it's a standalone headset. So they have the battery. You can put the battery in your back pocket and walk with it to the laundry,
Oh.
or you can drive with it if you're courageous enough. Um,
Wait, I didn't know that the battery is outside of the headset.
um, well, I know they have the battery that can connect to the headset.
Oh, I see.
So
For extra juice.
yeah, so for the prolonged experience, so you don't have to
Mm.
charge it because we know that the XR experiences are eating the battery very quickly. So I guess that's what they had in mind.
Ah, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think it took them a really long time to get to this technology because they waited for the technology of VR sets to catch up. That's what I mean. Like at first when we started with the VR, we had to place all those cameras around across the room, and it was like very complicated to set up. Ah, and now we don't really use that anymore. If
no,
you can explain it,
of
maybe.
course. So what you're talking about is that when it started at the beginning, they had less outside-in tracking, and now we have the inside out for most of the headsets these days, and it's much simpler. So it wasn't cameras, it was like this light box, they called it
Ah,
for the HTC Vive, and they would shoot a infrared light and detect the headset. The headset itself had many small points on it, so
mm,
it was easy to detect. And also the controllers had many small infrared detecting points, and it was really easy to detect. But it made the whole experience more like not so fast. You had to place it in
mm.
the room 5 meters at least, and um,
Yeah, it was really challenging to set
yeah,
everything up. So,
and now
also,
it's simpler.
yes. So today I think while it's much easier to use, I still feel like it's not really part of the mainstream yet. Do you
Yeah.
have any idea why?
Well, this is such a good question. I guess um, what Apple Vision Pro is trying to do with their headset is to
Mhm.
push it forward and make like give good marketing. Even I heard about the pinch. They talk about the pinch they have in their headset, and seriously, just telling you that this pinch option is been in the quest for years.
Oh, really?
But
Oh,
like,
so
no
the
one
pinch is
heard
like.
about it because it's not Apple.
Yes, they kind of like to do
So
that sometimes. So you're
let's
saying the pinch is the way to navigate through the VR experience, right?
yeah to select. It's
Ah.
used to select for selecting like the UI menu or an object.
So they are
Um,
not the first ones to think about this.
but hopefully they'll do for XR what they did for the mobile phones. But still, it's a technology used mainly for what you call it, like technology people, like early adopters,
Mm-hmm.
um, people who are not, not afraid to put this headset on their head and and spend not so little amount of money.
Oh yeah.
It's either like 500 for their competitor, the Quest, the new one, or 350.
Oh yeah. It's
three
an
thousand
expensive
five
one for
hundred
sure.
dollars
It's
for
like a whole computer put on your head.
yeah, yeah. Well, it is.
Yeah.
Um, so
So like,
it's still expensive, and
yes.
maybe the content is still gaming oriented, art oriented. Um, but hey, I think the more content we have, it can surely improve the reach size of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I do think that what Apple is doing with the Apple Vision Pro is very similar to what they did with their iPhone. Like they announced it in 2007, but like the first smartphone
yeah,
was not the iPhone. The first actual smartphone appeared 5 years before the iPhone. So Apple made this kind of jump and made smartphones popular and not just for those early adopter techie people. So I
yeah,
do think that the same will happen with the VR and the Vision Pro device. That's what I think.
I hope
Uh,
so.
yes, yes.
Right now, people are buying it and returning it. That's what I heard.
Oh, really? Oof.
That's what I heard. That's what I read.
Oh, I guess it's because it's like so expensive.
Yeah,
I
they
hope that
have a taste of it, and
the future versions will be a little bit less expensive, so it will be easier to appeal to the broad audience. Yeah, it kind of sounds like people are buying it, playing it around, playing with it a little bit,
yeah,
and then posting their social media
they are.
posts and then just return. Yeah,
Yes.
I do wonder what is it like to like because VR is so new. I do wonder how you would onboard someone to a VR experience because like with phones at first it was kind of a weird experience at first because phones were not like smartphones with the screens were not so popular, but now everyone has a smartphone, right? So similar in VR, like so VR is still kind of new territory as of today. So how would you onboard someone to a VR experience? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, um, I just want to just say that I'm going to talk about VR, and of course there are other similar um, um, technologies like AR and MR,
Yeah.
and what's the difference is that in VR, um, your whole world is is a visual representation. It's 360 degrees around you.
Right.
You're completely immersed. You're completely um, detached from your real world,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it so immersive. Um, so so for onboarding new players, and usually it's non-players, from my experience, or people who are new to VR,
Mm-hmm.
you have to make them feel really comfortable. And I'll explain, because from what I experienced during development and playtesting, that people, they easily feel um, a, a loss of control. I mean, and they have to adapt to new technology, and which is another part. They have to get familiar with the controllers,
Oh,
or the if it's hand tracking, they have to be familiar with the options they have. If it's
oh yeah.
pointing a finger, or pinching, or pinching and sliding stuff. Um,
I wonder what people by instinct try to do with their hands.
Um, this I have less experience with, even though I developed for hand tracking, but I wasn't present at the actual run of the
Okay, so it's mostly using the controllers they
controllers.
have,
Yes,
right? Yeah, yeah.
it takes them time to to place the fingers even on the controller.
Ah.
um, I have one here.
Oh yeah.
Takes them time to understand what is a trigger, what is grip. So first, what I'm doing is I before they put the headset, I tell them, here's the controller. These are your main buttons you're going to use in this experience, and only after that I put the headset.
Hmm.
And even after we already start the experience, usually there is a tutorial phase. Again, when you try the controller, you are asked to point at something, you are asked to select something,
Mhm.
you are asked to like select a UI element, you are asked to pick an object.
Mhm.
So they are more familiar with what they are going to be using at this experience.
Yeah, so as I see it, like people at this stage of time are so unfamiliar with the VR experience that the tutorial doesn't have to first take you through the gameplay, but first even has to take you through how to even use the controllers and the UI itself.
Yeah, from my experience,
Mm.
yeah, the best way is like to feed the player um, like a baby with a spoon. Sorry, like the best way is like to really give them the like give it to them step by step, so they first of all feel comfortable in this game
Mm. Mhm.
without even starting to play the game. You want them to feel comfortable with the game, with what they're going to use to play the game.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then this approach for um, giving the player the sense of control, I think it should appear during the game as well. Um,
Ah, okay, so this sense of control is not just for the tutorial, but also for the game itself when you're
yeah,
developing
because
it.
from what I see, it's really easy to get lost in VR because it's a 360 world. It's in a 2D screen when you play a video game. There's one screen you look at, and you can go right, left.
Yeah.
um, it's pretty much in your face, but in VR, things can happen behind your back, and if there's no indication for that, you may never just turn back and see.
Ah, so how do you actually let the player know that something is happening behind our back?
So, feedbacks is the best way. Um,
What kind of feedback?
well, there's this special sound. You can
Ah.
use special sound, which is for VR. It's amazing because you can set up a special sound. I use Unity as a developer, and
Mhm.
they have this free sound option, and I can make the sound come from behind your back, or from
Ah.
the right, or from the left, and it catches the player's attention.
Oh, so okay, so in VR, like the sound effects and where they're coming from, it's like super important. That's what it sounds like.
Yes, it's also important story wise if there's something that is happening in the in certain area,
Mhm.
and it's also important as a feedback. If you press the button or if you picked up something, you want to give the VR player any feedback you can. I guess like similar to mobile games and computer games, because you want to communicate to the player all the time that what he's doing is working, what is doing something.
Yeah,
Um,
that's very true in all kind of game developments. That's for sure. Like whenever the user does something, you want to give them a certain feedback to know, to let them know if they're in the right direction or if they're doing something completely bad.
yes.
Yeah, so it's even more important in VR, it sounds like, because
Yes,
it can come from places they're not even looking at.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Another way that you can guide the player um, through the scene is by placing like a small path, like a particle path, like a path of particles in the
Is it
scene,
supposed to look like a light that is
like
showing
like a
them where to
light,
go?
like a light, like a line that is
Mm.
drawn on the floor if it's an experience on the
Mm-hmm.
floor. Another way is to have a character that is guiding you through the experience
Mm.
and tells you, "Hey, come here." It's also, and it can also speak, use audio.
Yeah, so
Voiceover.
NPCs are also welcomed in this type of way. Actually, in other types of games, the NPCs are also used to navigate the player and show them where to go. Where you need to follow the NPC, and sometimes the NPC is too slow, so you have to walk really slowly. And sometimes if you run, then you are really getting into a mess with them. Yes. So
Yeah,
also,
I guess it's not that new what I'm saying.
yeah, but although for VR, I know that walking in VR can feel a little bit weird, right? If you follow the NPC, so how how do you actually mm, adjust the feeling of weirdness when you navigate in VR, especially if you need to follow someone?
Okay, yeah, like just like I suggested, yes. So you can have I had this one experience I worked on,
Mm-hmm.
and they had um, a system of splines on the floor, and from each point to point, once you got to one point, the spline, and it was time to move on, the
Mm-hmm.
spline would draw a, a light on the floor, leading you to the next point, like the yellow bricks of the um the Wizard of Oz. So
Ah, okay.
yes, showing you the path.
But
Another
doesn't it
thing,
feel weird to walk in a VR space?
oh yes, that does feel weird. Um, Actually, you can approach it in two different ways. So one way is to build one environment that takes place like in one room, and
Mm-hmm.
each time it takes place in one room. You and like it's 3 meters on 3 meters, and the person can actually walk. And
Mm-hmm.
the tracking is so real that it's really 3 meters. So if you stand by one
Ah.
place and you walk 3 meters, you're by the other place in VR.
Do you really have to make sure it's aligned to the real world meters? Like 3 meters in VR and three
Yeah.
meters in real life?
Yes. For this kind of experience, you need to really align with the real room.
Otherwise, people will feel weird.
Otherwise, people can get stuck in walls or closet. We
Yeah.
don't want that to happen to them
No.
in VR.
No, no, no.
Talking about sense of control.
Yeah, I mean, I am
They're
currently in
vulnerable.
space and I don't really have things to stumble across. So these are not issues that I usually deal with in where I'm from.
Um,
I've heard about the term cyber sickness, which kind of sound like seasickness or anything like that. Can you
oh
maybe
yes, yes.
explain what it is?
Of course. So I'm going to explain what it is and connect it to another thing I wanted to talk about
Sure.
moving VR.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So cyber sickness is a very it's not something you want to feel in VR. It's like going on a boat trip with big waves
Oh,
and
no.
makes you pretty much sick. It can give you like a stomach. You can feel like your stomach. um,
That sounds horrible.
Headache. Some people like have. Yes, it is. It is, and it takes time to pass. And people who experience that, they don't want to. They don't want to continue playing your game for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's you're losing your crowd if you allow them to feel cyber sickness. Well, it's I guess each person can even feel it in different way, but it's a total a bad feeling, a
Mhm,
physically bad feeling,
mhm.
um, and some people are more some people are more prone for to cyber
Oh, I see.
there's nothing you can do about it. Um,
Create a better game.
no, actually, some people are really sensitive to
Oh.
having these lenses. A few centimeter or even 2 centimeters from your eyes and
Oh.
immersing into this graphic world. Some people, I met one person from one of my works, and she couldn't be in VR for like more than 1 minute. But most people are can get used to it,
Mhm.
and um, and you can make sure to develop uh, a well experience. So, for example, make sure your frame rate is high enough. Um, it's above 70 for sure, and it's
Oh
above even
wow.
90 frames per second. Um, and you have to remember that if it's the regular camera renders one time, the VR have two lenses, and usually
Oh.
it's they render twice as the regular camera. So you have to, as a developer, you have to ensure the app runs smoothly as you can with the highest frame rate you can. Um, and because what's causing the cyber sickness is also when you expect something and it's not happening, like
Oh.
if there's a delay in frame, so if you move your head and the frame is not moving with you and it's moving with a delay, you're
That
like,
must be so weird.
yeah. And it's so disorienting, and
Mhm.
it's just it's not a comfortable feeling.
I think this cyber sickness situation will fit really well into horror games.
If you want to see your games revenue drop in horror.
I mean, I don't know. This is just a suggestion. If you
Okay,
can't
okay,
deal with
got it.
proper, if you can't deal with proper frame rates, although you really should, maybe you can create a horror game.
Um, and so for walking, okay, so
Yeah.
for walking, um, um, you should use the proper locomotion in VR, like teleportation.
What's
Um,
Locomotion VR?
locomotion in VR is like how the player is moving in VR.
Oh, oh.
So, if they can't move physically, if it's not designed for that, they can move with a controller,
Mm-hmm.
pressing the joystick. They go forward, left.
Mm-hmm.
They can turn with the joystick, and so when you jump in VR from one point to another, which is the teleportation used for, so it's much more comfortable. Another way is to is it's much more comfortable, and you can really progress in the game from one point to
Mm-hmm.
another. And these jumps, they're not causing you cyber sickness. Uh,
Ah.
yeah.
Okay, so it does sound like instead of making people walk around the room, a very spacious room, we can use teleportation to move the
Yes,
player around.
because not everyone has a spacious room made for
Yeah,
VR, and most people don't.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, I see. So now maybe let's talk about some of the projects that you have been working on. And particularly, I would want to start with the public speaking application that you created. Uh, please tell us about it.
All right. So the public speaking application was ordered from me by a master student degree. Um, and she did her thesis about charisma. She wanted to know if it's something that a person can learn, can master. Can you master
Hmm.
charisma or not? It's something you're
Is
born
it
with.
something you're born with, or is it something a skill that you can develop? Interesting.
Yes. So she asked me to create this uh, environment for her, and and so public speaking take place in a theater. We selected together with her, 3D theater. Uh, and it has all the things that a theater should have: lighting, stage, crowd.
Ooh, the crowd, scary.
Yeah. And the research aspect is that she also recorded herself talking about public speaking and how you can learn to talk with your hands, gestures, voice. um,
She recorded herself speaking about it like a tutorial kind of thing. Is it like a
yeah,
video tutorial?
yes, and I displayed these videos as
Ah.
part of the environment.
Oh, wait. So you actually put a video tutorial inside the VR space.
Exactly.
Ah.
There was a really structured sequence for that, a tutorial, and then the person can practice what they just learned.
Okay. And basically, uh, is there like a easy mode, hard mode kind of thing in the
So
application?
so they're nice. There is a difference. Of course, you have to have a difference because it's a research.
Yeah.
So the difference was that there were another sets of videos which spoke about kickboxing.
What?
Yeah, not related. And so her participants were divided into two groups. The group who learned about public speaking, and the group who learned about something completely different. And she showed that the people who learned about public speaking and charisma actually improved uh,
Hmm.
their appearance. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, okay. I thought that it might be a bit different situation because if you learn about it and then try to do public speaking right away, then you're extra stressful instead of hearing about another topic. That's kind of how what I assumed would happen from what you told. So, as I understand, the video tutorials that were displayed in the VR experience were a very important part of it. Um, were there any struggles in showing the videos inside the VR experience? Because you said it's really important to have a good frame rate, and the video can kind of mess that up.
Oh, yes. Actually, at first I did. Um, at first, the rate dropped drastically once the video came up. Yes,
Bad.
exactly. And she sent me these high quality videos, and I said, "Oh, oh." um, and what I found that usually, if you get an MP4 video, just convert it to MKV
Huh.
format, and it's usually much lighter, but it keeps the quality as much. keeps really pretty good quality. One can't really tell the difference. Uh,
Mm.
so
Okay, so
yeah, it's a big pain. Videos in VR, you have to adjust
huh.
them.
Yeah, so if people want to, I don't know, create a cyberpunk city with all of those screens that show videos inside, so better go with MKV files.
Yes, also another technique I found, if you want to show duplicate screens, actually is to render one video with
Oh,
4 screens from the beginning.
uh-huh.
Okay, for example, it's 4 screens, and then when you render the video, you render it on the material in Unity.
Ah.
Um, so or render texture too, but what I'm saying is in the material you can adjust the offset.
Offset
There's
of what?
always a material on the plane when you
Mm-hmm.
render the video, and you can adjust the offset to take 1/4 of the video you're playing. So it's like you're lying. It's like a trick because you
Huh.
render 4 videos, like one video, but it makes it looks like you're rendering 4 because you can adjust the y and x of the offset of the material on
Hmm.
the plane in that manner that it's focusing on one part of the video,
Hmm.
and it's much lighter than playing 4 videos.
Hmm.
Materials which the camera has to render.
Ah, that's a nice trick to learn. Cool.
Works for me.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
So, because this is like a public speaking kind of thing, it means that you actually need to have an audience in front of you, right?
Yes.
How many people were in this audience?
1,000.
One, 1,000. You created a whole theater with 1,000 of characters inside.
Um, yes, I reused some of
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
the way
Ah,
I handled it is because it's 1,000 characters. Can
yeah. I cannot imagine. Ooh.
Yeah,
But
it's a challenge.
yeah, you're saying all frame rates are so important for
Yeah.
VR, and here we are placing 1,000 characters in a single scene.
Yeah, so the way I handled it, um, it's at first it summed up for like millions of polygons, like 30 millions of polygons,
Ah!
and it has to run on a standalone headset. It's a Quest. I can say the name, right?
Yes,
So
yes, of course.
it has to run on a standalone headset with a, Android processor, like a Qualcomm Dragon processor, and it's limited. Like I think it's limited to like 2 million polygons. Maybe
Oof.
today more, but at the time that's the goal. So you have to keep your VR experience limited to the polygons amount. How I handled it is I divided the crowd to three. Okay,
Categories? Three categories?
exactly 3 categories.
Mm-mm.
Uh, like close the crowd who sits really closely to the stage,
Oh,
uh, the mid crowd, and the
yes.
far crowd.
Yeah, okay.
And so the mid crowd, the close crowd, I used also low poly characters pack I bought
Uh-huh.
online,
Yeah.
and
Unity
also
Asset Store. Woo!
and more sources.
Yeah.
But I also used the characters from Mixamo, which I think many game developers who needs characters are familiar with this website, Mixamo,
I
and they
will link that one below.
sure, and they have like really nice characters there, humanoid and others, and also already animated. And so for the new crowd, I use that, so it's more like realistic. And as we move back to the last rows of the theater, I use the low poly crowd, and I really um, I did two things.
Mm-hmm.
One, um, I really lowered the quality of the texture
Uh-huh.
of this crowd, because it's so far away that
Hmm.
um, you don't really see the difference. In VR, it turns into like this bunch of foggy people who just sits there.
Yeah, so these are like super small pixels that you can't
Yeah,
really understand what's there for real.
it already looks like a bunch of people. You don't even see them.
Yeah.
I mean, someone's sitting there. So I made it like I also did something that we like. I kind of cut them to be a placate. Can I say placate? Like,
Yeah, like pieces of wood or something.
yeah, I kind of cut them. I used Blender and I kind of cut all of their behinds because no one can see it. You know,
Yeah, you need to save those polygons.
I do. So basically, that the people look like a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Um, and so and so and I kind of did it for the mid crowd as well, because no one can see what's behind. And in this
Mm-hmm.
particular experience, the person could walk, but only on stage. They had
Right.
like a really minimal space to walk. They weren't allowed to get off the stage and start looking around the theater. So from their perspective, as if there were fully models. But that's one thing. And the other thing, I used a mesh combiner plugin. Uh, so after the theater was ready, it's I just combined all the meshes into one mesh, and it makes the rendering much easier.
Oh, okay. So these are a lot of tricks you can try if you have a lot of NPCs to put in one scene for
Yes,
VR.
another
But
challenge
actually,
is
not
to.
just for VR. I think it also
Sorry, what?
works for. I'm just saying that the tips that you shared, they're cool not just for VR but also for regular video games that maybe run on a phone and not on a full-on gamer PC.
Exactly. You just need to create a magical place. You can just fool the audience in a good way.
Yeah.
You need to make a trick. It's not reality, right? You just need to make
Hmm.
the tricks that works.
Exactly. So, anything else that you would want to say about the public speaking application?
Oh, that I just wanted to say that I used the plugin that I wrote to place each character in a seat. So
Oh,
I wouldn't go and place them like manually with my
oh, okay. So you create a small program for it to do it for you.
um and yes, it
Okay.
went successfully.
So I do wonder what was the result. Is it something you can learn, or is it like, charisma? Is it something you can learn, or is it inherited?
Well, she found out that it's something you can learn.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes,
Very important. Cool.
it's good to know.
Yes, we all can still have our hopes up.
Yes.
And let's go for another game experience that you have worked on, which is the Holy City.
Yes, the Holy City VR. Um, and it's an experience, yes. Also, like to name it as a documentary game.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Fancy, fancy.
Yeah. It's an experience I worked on during my time working with the Blimey company in Jerusalem, um, led by Nimrod Shanit. Um, it's about the holy places in Jerusalem, the holy places, the old city. Um, there are. It's about connecting the quarters of the old city, and and this experience was developed for quite a long time. I came on board with a Canadian team. I
Oh,
came on board um, as to be the developer in our team, and and yes, we developed. I developed here with our small team for like a year and a half. It's a great experience. It's
I
a
do
showcase in
wonder
this
because
festival.
you're calling it a game documentary, so I do wonder what someone can expect from this type of game.
Because yes, because it has parts when there are quests and you actually need to complete a puzzle, um, or solve a riddle,
Mm-hmm.
and there are parts when you emerge into this 360 video and shot with a 360 camera,
Oh,
and now you're like a passive spectator who watches these movies, and so it's yeah, it's educational and also interactive.
oh, that's nice. That's nice. And it's talking about the all different parts of the city, right?
Yes, there's the Muslim quarter, the Jewish, the Armenian, and the Christian.
Oh, okay. So you can actually learn about all these different perspectives in this documentary game.
Yes, you can.
Interesting. And as the developer for this documentary game, what was your role exactly?
Well, I was the sole developer on the team, and my role.
Oh, you were the only developer?
Well, yes, they took the development from Canada to Israel at a certain point, and I
Ah,
was the only developer. So I had to develop the multiplayer experience that we developed at that time with a
oh,
tablet.
wait, it's a multiplayer?
It's also a single player and also a multiplayer.
Oh, that's so tough.
Yeah.
Please
So
share more.
yeah, so I developed the multiplayer from scratch, and I had to deploy the single player, uh, taking the existing parts of the
Mm-hmm.
application and deploy it for Viveport, for stores, AVR store. So also developing, writing the code for the multiplayer,
Mm-hmm.
writing the logic for the server client communication, also working with optimizations for this whole experience. I mean, not whole, because we know it's video and the 3D parts. So the 3D parts are uh, assets they created using this technology called photogrammetry.
Uh-huh. What
And
is it about?
it's photogrammetry is taking many pictures from many different of an object or an environment, or
Oh, from different angles. You
yes,
take a
exactly,
photo and you photo it from all of its angles. I
exactly.
see. Huh.
Um, so it's also called like scanning the environment,
Ah.
and they use also 360 camera for that, and after that, the 3D generalist we had to convert these environments to a 3D model,
Oh.
and and uh, and and we also had 3D models we made especially for this environment, because you can't always capture everything you need.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so you add stuff which are made later. And one of the challenges is that, of course, you need to keep the good frame rate. So I had to adjust the LODs using the LOD plugin,
What
and
are LODs?
a level of details, LODs, of the model.
Uh-huh.
So how these plugins work, they measure the distance between the camera and the model. And if and you can set up the distances you want for each level of details. And if the camera is close, you see the full level of details. You see
Hmm.
full model. But if the camera is like really far away, kind of what I did manually with now that I'm thinking about it.
With the public speaking application.
No, but cutting polygons. Okay, okay, and so anyway, and so when the camera is far away, so it kind of cuts the polygons and it distorts
Hmm.
the 3D model, but it's still nice. You
Yeah.
can still work with it. So that was part of it. Another part was baking lights. So making lights in Unity. So not every time it has to be real time. Sometimes it's okay that it's baked. Um, and making light maps for another. So for a game, we did part of the experience.
Hmm.
Um, and so apart from also I made tools for for the 3D people and the art director. I made tools for him to work with in Unity.
Oh, you created tools as well.
Yes, like
What kind of tools?
so he needed to um like
The 3D artist, you mean?
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
More like art for more for art director
Yeah.
because he was the one creating this uh, like animation sequence on a timeline,
Oh.
and he wanted the light to appear or to change the color. So I wrote a small script for him that he can animate the lighting
Ah.
as he needs, and also I wrote some shaders for him.
Hmm. You did so much,
I
bro.
did. It's very versatile.
That's awesome.
And also we ran the testing.
Oh, you also did the playtests?
Yeah.
Can you share a bit more about that?
So when the game was ready, we had people. It was developed in a museum in such an environment
Oh.
that it was supposed to be played in a museum.
Hmm.
And so we called the workers of the museum to come play the game.
Oh,
Yeah, and
that's a fun way to get playtests.
yes, and these are non players. You know, these people are non players and they are non VR players for sure.
Ah, and also if your experience is supposed to be played at a museum, then you for sure get people to play even though they're not gamers.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Uh, so uh, so yeah, so we went through this testing with these workers and some friends of ours who came on board.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
uh,
always use your friends for playtesting.
yes, yes, and if they're developers, even better,
Yeah.
because they have some insights you wouldn't think about,
Mhm.
and like don't fade to white, always fade to black in VR.
Fading to white sounds a lot like if people are dying and they see the light.
Yes, and some people are just sensitive to strong lights, and that's
Oh,
not.
yeah.
I see the light. um, so and they came and they were really nice, and we prepared this questionnaire for them. We asked them questions, and we made the adjustments afterwards. um, but yeah, you can see how people react to VR in real time, how they afraid when you put them high. There was one scene when you put them high on the top of the ceiling of the church, and they're like, "Whoa,
I'm
I'm
about to fall. And we were talking previously about how to onboard someone into a VR experience. So, how did you do that for the Holy City game documentary?
so exactly what I said about the tutorial we did in the Holy City. We the first thing they did is saw a movie for the multiplayer experience. They
Oh, so
still
this is another video that you're showing in VR.
no, but
Oh,
this time not in VR.
oh, okay.
There was the tablet player and the VR player, so they both had there was a television in the room, and they both saw a movie about
Mm-hmm.
the quest they're going to enter, about um, what their tasks are going to be,
Mm.
um, and afterwards the VR would was prompted to put the headset on their head, the VR
Mm-hmm.
player, and the first thing they saw is the tutorial about the controllers.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and the tutorial already embedded the environment of the old city.
Mm.
It was thematically connected to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were asked to rotate a map, the table with a map of the environment, so they did so with the controller. So it was related to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the game, and they learned about all the buttons they're going to use with
Yeah,
the
so
tutorial.
truly baby steps when
Yes,
it's coming to VR.
yes, I truly recommend it.
All right, all right. So, um, what about giving the players, I don't know, auditory feedback or visual feedback for
Yeah,
whatever they did? How did you do it for the Holy City?
yeah. So for the Holy City, we also had this really cool orb character which followed you around, and
Oh,
you had to follow it around too. It's like this glowing orb, like really pretty glowing.
shiny.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
and also talking with the voiceover. This was like the guide of the experience, and we use the haptics, like the controller vibrates when you do something, when you pick up an object, or when you need to look somewhere, you need to look at your clock at a certain point, so it starts vibrating until you look at it.
So the clock is also like part of the
Uh,
user interface, sort of.
yes, sorry, but it was a bracelet, not a clock.
Sure, sure, sure.
Or a clock. Bracelet with things you pick up during the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And also you had UI pulses, so like UI which is like pulsing with the light to get
Mm.
your attention, and also we had this trail on the floor to
Ah,
show you
the
exactly where to go.
glowy trail.
Yes.
That's cool. That's cool. So many awesome tips on how to do this type of stuff for your games. Hmm. So,
Use them all.
yes. Yeah, so if I want to develop a VR game, I'm a game developer. I usually use Unity, but I'm now kind of switching to Godot. And I want to choose an engine to work on for my VR game. What are my options? What kind of engines should I use?
Well, I know two main engines are Unreal and Unity,
Mm-hmm.
and Unreal are um, probably they're known for their graphics, for their,
Yeah.
so I think their graphics is impressive,
Yeah.
and much easier, I think, to get to a good result. You can get great results with Unity, but I think maybe it can take a bit more time
Mhm.
um, to master it. um, Unreal uses blueprints mainly for developing, and C++
Yeah.
libraries. It's some people find it even again easier to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's also great for VR, of course. There are, I had some experience with it. There are made VR packages for VR, and you can make real quick prototypes, like quickly, uh, and you're good to go.
Since frame rates are so important in VR,
Yes.
then where would it be easier to handle them? In Unity or in Unreal?
Um, well, I know that Unity is much more suited for mobile development. Like if you want to
Hmm.
develop for a mobile game,
Yeah.
uh, usually people say like go for Unity because it's like
Right.
lighter.
Yeah.
Um, and um, I would say Unity because I'm familiar with it.
Yes.
Because I'm familiar with all the optimizations, like most of the optimizations you can take.
Mm-hmm.
And in Unreal, because it's such a great graphics, I would say it's mostly suited for standalone, like for standalone, like for PC applications in VR.
Oh.
You can also connect to
Mm-hmm.
VR
Yeah.
with a link cable. And for headsets who are not connected to computer, I think maybe you should go with Unity or just I'm not so much familiar with optimizations in Unreal. I
Mm-hmm.
have to say.
Yeah.
I
Honestly, I will kind of, at least for my experience, I prefer to touch my code. So the blueprints are a little bit scary for me to use.
I
And I would
agree.
stick with Unity, at least from my perspective.
I agree. I just like to know exactly what my code says,
Yes.
and
And it's so important with optimizations, I feel like.
yeah, true. And and I think it's less limiting. I think something in Blueprint can be limiting. And I'm sorry, Unreal users, I'm not trying to encourage you.
I
um,
mean, they have to do
oh,
with C++. C++ is pretty fast, as it's a very low level language.
that's true.
So that's a
That's true.
bonus point for Unreal.
Yeah.
And what about which headset I want to develop for? Like, what are my options, and how should I make my choice?
Well, I think you should develop for something that most people have. So HTC Vive, it's it's less for homes, I think. It's more
Mm-hmm.
for like industry. So I would say you would like to probably develop for Quest. One of them, I think two or three, because their graphics are better than the first one, and uh, and it's not so expensive. And I think you want to develop for something that most people have at their homes. And I believe that at this point, this is what most people have at their homes.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe it will
but
change in the future with the Apple Vision if they
yeah,
reduce the price somehow.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe. And okay. So you're saying that the Quest is the VR headset that most people have at their houses.
Yes, I guess it's also a regional. Like there are other stuff, of course, in the market, but I think this one is like
Can.
Neopico. Neopico is also
Mm.
runs on Android, but if you develop for Quest, I think you can make it work on other Android maybe devices. But Quest is
Uh,
it's the
Wait,
answer.
and what is the operating system for the HTC Vive?
Um, well, I know they also have the standalone, which is not connected with cables to the computer.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't tried it, and so what I did have tried is the HTC Vive, which is connected with the light boxes, and
Ah,
it
yeah.
runs on the power of the GPU power of the computer.
Aha, aha. I
Yeah.
see, I see. Well, anyway, if I'm developing in Unity, then I can just kind of export either to Android or to Windows, and would that just work?
Well, not so quite. You should. I mean, if you want something to work both on Windows and Android, you should develop for Android
Ah,
because it's more demanding regarding the frame rate.
I see, I see.
So
Okay. Yeah.
otherwise,
That's
that
a good tip.
can take
That's a good tip. Okay. Got it. Understand. So, maybe you have more resources to share with us if I want to learn more about VR.
sure. Um, First, I can say that um, there is a good plugin for developing for VR, which is,
For Unity?
yeah, which is mainly used. It's called the
Mm-hmm.
XR Plugin Management, and it has a bunch of tools in there, interactions, hands interactions, and it's called XR because it's really suited for different types of development and headsets. And and as for resources for developing VR and learning about the VR, um, you can, I think you can go to, you can always go to YouTube.
Of course, of course.
There,
Okay. We will think this through later and we will just
but
link in the description all sorts of cool
yes,
links
but
later on.
also there are the cool websites like Road to VR, when you can read about VR.
Oh,
Uh,
Road to VR. Okay. That's an interesting one to
or-
check out.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for so many tips, for so many awesome tips about VR. I feel more confident going into this space uh, in the future. Mm, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
Uh, sure. Um, I think that VR development, it's not so different from game development.
Yeah,
It's
good
just
point.
attaching the right plugin, and it's amazing how it instantly you are in the VR. Um, it's not so hard
Yes,
as you would think.
good point. It's
Yeah,
not as hard as you may think.
no.
Good point. Okay. So, guys, if you want to hear more from Lena, I will link her socials below. And Lena, thank you so much for coming today. And thank you guys for listening.